What did you think was completely normal in the relationship until you discovered it was abusive behavior? I thought the silent treatment after an argument was totally normal because my mum did the same thing. Turns out it's not normal at all. Edit to clarify. I don't mean not talking for a couple of hours after an argument, I'm talking about being ignored for multiple days at a time like you don't exist. Infantilization. I thought it was completely normal for teenage girls to be treated like toddlers essentially. I'm not even joking, I was 14 and still slept with my mom, still called her mommy, asked her to potty, didn't cut my own food, didn't wash my own clothes. I was with a friend at her house and asked her mom if I could use the potty. Holy crap, the look on her face. That sounds really difficult to discover. I know this is a weird title, but have you heard of the memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, by Jeanette McCurdy? She played Sam on iCarly and she experienced this kind of abuse as well. She's beautifully open about it. I am so sorry. Love bombing. Gifts? Surprise trips? Huge gestures? This person must really like me. This is going to well. Nope. All of that was to make me believe they were a great person before the abuse set in. For 2 years I tried to get the old them back. Wanting to know exactly where I am 24/7 and with frequent, every couple of hour check-ins. Being responsible for making sure that nothing goes wrong in the other person's life and they never have a disappointment. Turns out that makes every disappointment or sadness my partner feels my fault, even if I have no control and can't fix it. I started lying about things to protect my ex's feelings because I couldn't deal with all the blame and verbal abuse. I still have the impulse to lie to my current partner if I ever have to give bad news. A couple months ago I lost something he gave me, and quietly replaced it. He noticed it was different last night and I fessed up. He thought it was sweet that I liked it so much that I replaced it myself. Growing up, I thought it was normal that parents screamed and hit their children. Most of my friends' parents hit their kids and yelling matches between teens and kids is normalized on television and social media. I was in college when someone challenged this belief and stated blatantly that spanking was abuse and what I was describing, being hit with hairbrushes, paddles, sticks, belts, etc., was way past that line. It took me a while to really deconstruct that and accept that they were right. It was abusive. And it never taught me any lessons, it just taught me how to be better at not getting caught. I really appreciate this thread. I hope it saves a few of us. Him constantly calling me a crybaby because I get emotional over things. Happy, sad, real, fake, TV, movie, doesn't matter. I get teary-eyed and squeaky voice. Being afraid of my partner's anger. Not allowed to have any social interaction without his permission and under strict guidelines. Being alienated from my own family, went 100% no contact with my parents for 5 years at his behest. Having my own salary withheld and not being allowed to spend money on anything. Being denied needed medical care, because I didn't deserve it. Being gaslit and told that I was a liar and crazy skeptical smiley face. I'm safe now. Several years and a restraining order later. Wanting to talk about stuff was trying to look for a fight. Why can't I just let things go, I was told every time. As a child, I had to anticipate my parents' needs, and do it before they asked. For example, if I noticed my mom's cup was empty, I had to refill it before she asked. If she had to ask, I got in trouble. I wasn't allowed to say no, and every statement had to be interpreted as a command. The garden looks dry, meant, go water the garden right now. Being woken up in the night to him literally doing whatever he wanted to me and not having a choice or just being too scared to tell him to stop. If I was wearing revealing clothes then I was asking for it, so should expect it to happen. He would get angry and guilt-trip me if I tried to say no. And so much more. He somehow convinced me that the things he was doing to me were normal and okay because we were married. Right? I only learned in my early 60s what he'd done for 20 years wasn't my wifely duties, but rape. It was 20 years for me too, and I only realized in the end because I told someone else. I'm really sorry this happened to you as well. Thank you. It was to a point he'd argue and just continue. Even afterwards I'd have to run to the bathroom to throw up. It didn't matter. I didn't matter. I'm sorry for you too. We should never have to endure this in any situation. but to me it's a huge psychological hit when it's someone that is supposed to love you. My ex did this a handful of times, and when asked about it, he was shocked and said he must have been doing it in his sleep. He then claimed a few weeks later that I had tried to do the same to him in my sleep, which makes no sense since I literally sleep like a rock after seeing his abusive and toxic behavior during our very long drawn-out breakup. It only makes sense to me that he was lying and knew perfectly well what he was doing. So sorry this happened to you too. It's amazing how people like this all have similar behaviors and phrases. My ex-husband also used to claim that I sometimes started it, but he was okay with it because it's what he wanted apparently. This really upset me, so a few times I'd test it and pretend to be asleep just to see what happened. It was always initiated by him. He'd sometimes put my hands on him in places that he wanted them, but I didn't start anything. I've since been scared to go to sleep next to someone else in case by some chance it was me, but I have been reassured I don't do anything. Still plays on my mind though, sad face. It's really affected me. It's been good to read your reply. Thank you. I'm working through trauma from an abusive ex-boyfriend right now, including several violent rapes and physical and emotional abuse. This just reminded me after 5 years that he did this to me too. I went into therapy thinking I wanted to talk about the one really violent rape, and why I stayed so long in that relationship. Every week that passes, I remember more stuff like this. I realize weekly that he intentionally made me scared of him. The abuse was all systematic, and being raped was routine. I don't know why I'm typing this out, but thanks for letting me get it off my chest, read it, and for reminding me of something else I need to address in therapy. My ex climbed on top only a couple of times. I sleep like a log. Hard to wake up unless to a loud alarm. Once I woke with him almost finished and I complained about feeling raw and a switch flipped on him and he started screaming, "Who else have you been fucking if you feel so raw? Ha, could it be you shoved your dick in me without foreplay?" I still kick myself for marrying that shithead. Edit to add, this happened after I married him. My ex also did this throughout our whole relationship. I was only 14/15 and thought it was his right because he was my boyfriend. I woke up also too scared to say anything and not in the mood, so I just pretended to continue sleeping. Fine if it is something that we have agreed on beforehand. But I didn't realize it back then. That I always had to prove my love for him even in scenarios he made up in his own head or caused himself. If I didn't go that extra mile, if I didn't accept this new change, if I didn't forgive him, if I didn't do what he asked, it meant I didn't love him. It was a mountain I could never climb. Having sex every day even when I didn't want to. I think that was his way of controlling me. It really took the pleasure out of it because it became a daily routine. I thought that getting yelled at was normal. But I'm dating a guy now almost a year, this weekend, and he hasn't yelled at me yet. Living together 5 months. I keep expecting it but it never comes. Lol.